Hi, I'm Laura. I'm here with Alannah and Darragh, and we, along with about 30 other young critics, are reviewing films for the Dublin International Film Festival. You can visit the website at diff.ie to see the reviews. There are podcasts, videos, written reviews, all sorts of things, and buy tickets as well and watch some of these amazing films. Today, we're going to be discussing a documentary by Jerry Rothwell called The Reason I Jump. And this was based on a book by Naoki Higashida. He wrote it when he was 13 and he has nonverbal autism. So he wrote the book as a way of expressing how he was feeling and how he saw the world, how he sees the world. And so this Jerry Rothwell's documentary is a companion to this book. And we follow 5 young people with nonverbal autism and see their lives. And we follow them and learn more about them and their families.
Naoki Higashida makes a map of his mind. It's kind of poetry.
What I really want to discuss and what I want your opinions on, because I thought it was really excellently done, was the use of camera movement and the sound design to kind of amalgamate the experience, the kind of sensory experiences of having nonverbal autism, and how the director did that and used the camera movements and the sound to bring that experience across to people who are neurotypical.
I thought that was a very interesting choice because it's hard to get across that experience to people because we can't understand it. That's just not how our minds work. So and basically your protagonists, these people with autism, cannot speak. So what can they get across? It's not like, and they do get around that by having some people like spell out words, stuff like that. But giving us some sort of their experience through visuals and through camera work and through lighting and effects, I think was very, very smart. And it really put you into the mindset and helped comprehend slightly what was going on with them. And I think it helped empathize with the subjects a lot easier.
Yeah, I thought that as well. I thought it almost kind of like it helped humanize them, because like in most portrayals of autism in media, sometimes it can almost dehumanize if it's not done right. And I think that's what Jerry Rothwell wanted to get across, and what the author wanted to get across in his book. Like, he is human, and he just like feels things and experiences things differently to neurotypical people, and that's what he wants. And that's what he wants to tell the audience. And it is a clever way of kind of bringing the audience into the mind of someone with nonverbal autism, because obviously, like most people with autism do struggle to get their emotions across and how they're feeling, but it must be so much more difficult when you're nonverbal and you have like almost no way to communicate those feelings. And like, I thought the camera work was absolutely amazing, and the sound as well. Like it does say at the start that it's best enjoyed with headphones. So I was like, I had like my biggest headphones on watching it.
Yeah.
And that was like the best way to experience it.
I think that was a nice touch as well, actually, because a lot of autistic people, to prevent sensory overloads, will have headphones, like noise cancelling headphones, similar to the ones Laura's wearing, actually. A lot of supermarkets that are autistic friendly will provide them for people to help them shop easier. And I thought that was a very interesting touch, especially because this was meant to be a festival piece, and a physical festival piece in like theaters. How would they've gotten around that? So it's very interesting that people watch it online now, because I feel like I think it's better to watch this from home and being able to engross yourself in it with your own headphones. I don't know if you guys agree with that.
It is interesting to think, if like COVID hadn't happened and the festival was in person, would the sound have the same kind of benefit? Like, how would they do that in like because obviously this would be in like a cinema setting. Like, how would that come across? Would it be like surround speakers, but the volume turns a bit lower? Would they have like showing kind of more for an autistic audience and then another showing for like a non-autistic audience?
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. I can't remember.
Well, I
But
forgot the word
yeah.
cinema, so I mean,
Yeah, it's a really interesting observation actually, and I didn't even think of that because I guess we're so used to doing things at home. I thought that with the visuals they used, I thought it would have been amazing to have seen it in a theater because they used like almost macro lenses to get in really close to different details. Like when Amrit was drawing and sketching, he got really close up. The Ruben Wooden Deschamps was the cinematographer, and they got really tight shots of the pencil and everything. And I just would love to have seen that on a big screen. I think it would have
Yeah, it would have been incredible.
Yeah, a really amazing impact. And again, I want to shout out to the sound department. I just want to mention them. Nanita Desai was the composer. Nick Ryan did the sound design, and then Sarah de Oliveira Lima was the sound recordist on set. And I just think what they did was really, really incredible. How they worked it all through and together with like there's a particular part where Joss and his family were saying how he can hear the electricity from the green boxes
I
from
loved that segment.
from miles away, and the way they you could hear the hum like really loudly through the shots of him looking at the boxes. And I thought the way that was done was really incredible. And similarly with Justina and the car scene where she was looking at with her sensory toy, the ribbon, and then looking out the window, and then there was like super fast cuts and really loud noises, and the intensity of the window passing, and then back to the sensory object. And I thought the way that was done was beautiful as well.
And on that as well, it must have been a really hard challenge for them as well, because this isn't just a film for neurotypical people. Everything in it is safe for people with autism as well. It's very welcoming, and that's not something people usually think of or go into it.
Yeah.
I know in some other films that are made about autistic people, they're not safe. They could cause very much sensory overloads and meltdowns, and that's not an autistic person's fault. So going in with that in mind and going with that challenge that you want to provide something they can also enjoy and watch is very much commendable, I think, especially because the work they did was so high standard.
Yeah.
I think like it was an absolute masterpiece. Like it was definitely one of my it's one of the best documentaries I've watched, and I'm not big on documentaries, but like I would recommend that to anyone. And like the sound cinematography is just, it's an absolute masterpiece.
Yeah, 100%. And I thought the way I want to talk about the narration, the voiceover, kind of there was I don't want to call it a reconstruction because I don't think it's not a reconstruction. It's more so where you had the little boy who was playing Naoki, and you had the voiceover reading excerpts from the book, and how they prefaced kind of each theme almost within the whole story. So for example, you had Naoki's voiceover, and in the book he describes how their memories aren't linear, and you had him describe how when he looks back at his memories, they're not lined up, they're more so, he called it a pool of dots. And you had this leading into Joss and how they used his home videos cut in between his present.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cleverly done. Like they used the narration in such a way that really described what was going on. I thought that was...
No, I'd completely agree with that as well.
Yeah.
It was an excellent use of a framing device, and obviously the child was stimulated by everything that was going on, so it kept up with that theme. It wasn't just, it didn't feel out of place, it felt like continuity continuing. So I think that's what made it feel so natural and made it feel so it just fit. Everything in this documentary I think fits so perfectly, as if you could move one thing, it would take the whole thing apart. Like it
Yeah.
works so well because of the structure it has.
Yeah, definitely. It's such, I think it's one of the most unique documentaries I've ever watched in terms of the structure and the cinematography. It had more, even the opening, it felt like I was watching the introduction to a film and not so much a documentary. I think it was just so cinematic and so excellently put together.
Yeah, and it's rare that you get kind of like a cinematic documentary.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very rare that a documentary maker will go down that route. And like I said, I'm not big on documentaries. When I do find like a cinematic documentary, I'm like, yes, I'm like, this looks amazing.
Yeah, I just think it was stunning. Like
I think that. Sorry.
No, sorry, you keep going.
I think that calls back to the whole premise of making it safe for people with autism. Like, do you have to give them visual something to joke upon? And it just so happens that becomes cinematic for us, but it's something for them to stimulate themselves with, because it's not long shots. It's stuff that's with vibrant colors or with sounds, something they can really grasp onto. I might be drawing straws here, but that's what I got from it.
Yeah, it's kind of.
So I think it was kind of a necessary.
Yeah, they're using visuals and sound to capture how an autistic person might see the world. Obviously, this is a film about 5 autistic people and based on the experiences of the book by an autistic boy, but it doesn't speak for everyone, obviously, with autism. But I think it really brings the audience into how an autistic person might view the world with all the details, with all the sounds and things like that. So I thought that was really well done.
And I think by having it obviously it being based on the book helped a lot, because obviously like the best way to get into the mind of someone is for them to tell you.
Yeah,
and that's obviously what he was trying to get across in his book. And like I was reading about how the book was written, and he wrote it with a Japanese letterboard.
Mm-hmm.
And so and he obviously had someone helping him, but I think obviously it being based on the book helped the filmmaker a lot, because even if he couldn't, because obviously there are the 5 participants in the documentary, so even if it wouldn't have been the same if he didn't have the book to go on.
100%.
It would have been more difficult for him to kind of get into their minds. And like, I know not every nonverbal autistic person thinks the same, but just having the book made a huge difference. Like, I think if the book didn't exist, then we wouldn't have this documentary, or else the documentary may have like tried to have been made, but it wouldn't have been as impactful.
Yeah, 100%. I think you need to make a documentary about a specific group of people. You need someone in that community to guide the process and help, otherwise it's not an accurate documentary, But
I think there's a phrase I heard once. It's like, no representation without participation.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another one, Nothing About Us Without Us, which kind of came to light when Sia announced she kind of released the trailer for music.
Oh yeah.
And I think that even within this documentary, you see the issues, the wider issues in the world. Like when Ben talks about their access to education, he said that they were denied their civil rights. And we hear Justina's dad saying that when kids with autism were born, that they were left in the bush because they couldn't give back, And then you had later in the documentary, again, you had like voiceovers, I think archive footage of maybe TV broadcasts or radio or like scientific papers, and you had them talking about eugenics or something. And I think that this view that society has of autism is so, like, it's so obvious in media. And again, with music, I think that is really brought across. Like there's so many dangerous and harmful narratives about autism, and people are scared of it.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah.
And I just want to say real quickly before we go into talking about Sia's music and autism in the media, I liked how the documentary told us about how different cultures handle autism. Like, it was interesting to see, obviously, Amrit, who is in India, and Justina, who's in West Africa, how, like, those countries, they might not have such, like, they might not have as much understanding of autism as kind of like the Western world might. So it was interesting to see how those different cultures handled it. Like, it's, especially when it's following Justina, who's in West Africa, and how her mother, like, heard someone saying, when Justina was having like a meltdown, someone said, "Oh, your child's possessed by the devil. You need to get the devil out of your child."
Yeah. Like, I think, yeah, there's such a stigma attached to it, and I found it really, really wonderful when she said that they had opened a school in Sierra Leone.
I thought that was amazing.
That was brilliant, and that's like a massive step in changing the view and changing kind of the mindset that people have about autism.
I think, again, just before we move on, is that it is these small little things people don't think of that can really push people forward. Like Ben specifically, I'm thinking of how he went to speech therapy for like around 16 years. But in the end, all he needed was to point at a board, and that's how he needed to communicate. He physically cannot speak. I think it's just the small things that we could do to help that need to be done, and that's what the documentary kind of pushes towards.
Yeah, definitely. To kind of adapt the world rather than having these individual people adapt themselves.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So will we move on to talking about autism in the media?
Yeah. Do you want to start with talking about music?
Do
we have to?
But yeah, so there's been controversy over Sia's new movie called Music. It was shortlisted or nominated for a Golden Globe.
It's nominated for a
Golden Globe.
Yeah, for best movie, I think, and Kate Hudson's nominated for best actress in a comedy or musical.
We're very positive about this documentary. Not so much about this one.
Yeah, I think it really, like, there's such a disparity in how autism is portrayed. Like, it can either be really well done or really harmful and dangerous. Like, I think I read a review of Music by Robert Ebert, and he described it as a neurodiversity minstrel show. Like, the way that autistic traits are portrayed in it it's a caricature. It's like
it's almost cartoony.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. And like I can see why. Like when I first watched the trailer, and like all the comments in the YouTube video were just, I feel mocked, like from people in the autistic community. I feel like from what I've heard, Music isn't even like the protagonist of her own film. I feel Kate Hudson's character, who plays Music's kind of half sister, who's like a recovering alcoholic. And first of all, you shouldn't put a recovering alcoholic in charge of any child at all, like for starters. And I feel like maybe, like, this is, again, I haven't seen the film. I'm basing this off reviews and articles that I've seen. I feel like maybe Music's character is just more of, I don't know if catalyst is the right word, but I feel like she's just there for Kate Hudson's character. Yeah, like a prop.
Yeah.
For Kate Hudson's character to improve herself.
Yeah.
And speaking on what you said there, Laura, about prop, isn't there like a Sia interview where she like compared non-verbal autistic people to inanimate objects?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like wigs. And I was just like, oh my God.
There's a certain like audacity to it, and I that word is very grandiose or whatever, but it is this I know better attitude that has the whole film is plagued by. That it everyone behind it knows better. Like autistic people, they don't know what they want. We know what they want. This is what we're doing, and they'll just have to like it or love it.
Yeah, I feel like Sia's almost being like, you should be glad you're being portrayed in a movie, and the autistic community going, but that's not how we want to be portrayed.
Yeah,
and she's
that's
like,
not who we
I don't
are.
care.
A longtime friend of mine is on the autism spectrum. Remember when we were growing up in school, he'd have a lot of meltdowns. A lot of the perception of him was that he was just doing it for attention and stuff like that, but he just could not handle it. And knowing him now, it's had a massive toll on him, the way people were treating him because of it. Like he hides his own intentions. He just wants to get through the day, and at home, maybe he'll just let it out, but otherwise he doesn't want to be a burden on people. And that's horrifying that this movie might it perpetuate that.
Yeah, it's such a big thing like that. I've seen a lot of videos about people talking about like that specific thing, like masking, and it's really hard to do. It's really hard to suppress yourself because that's who you are, you know. And this Sia's movie is so dangerous, as you know, as you said, Darragh, to that. It's so harmful.
I think it's worth mentioning to have it said that all of us are neurotypical, so this
Yeah.
is an experience we have ourselves.
Yeah.
But it's stuff that, because like you know an autistic person, that's just like, let's not pretend you don't. Everyone does. It's a common thing to get diagnosed with autism now because it's so easier to diagnose it in modern times, which makes it that more shameful that people aren't making the effort to go and actually present them as people or present them as they actually are, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
one of my like same as you, Darragh, one of my oldest friends has autism, and like I grew up with him. Like I go to his house every day, and I knew he was kind of different. Like sometimes I'd say things and he wouldn't like understand straight away, or if I was sarcastic, he wouldn't get it. But obviously like I didn't know he had autism, but like I just explained what I meant, and he'd be like, "Oh, okay," and like I play with him the same way I played with any other friend. Because I was like 7 or 8, and like you said, like nearly everyone probably knows, no matter where in the spectrum they are, we all probably know one autistic person, and like we all see them as people.
Because they are.
We all see, yeah, because they are.
Yeah.
So I don't know why it's so hard for the media to see them as people.
And I don't understand as well why people can't cast autistic actors or
Not hard.
have autistic directors or screenwriters or a crew.
And like,
I think there's a Netflix series, Atypical, I think it's called.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Where no one involved in the show has autism, but the main protagonist is autistic.
Yeah.
And it's the most like, it's all the stereotypes of a parent whose life is hard just because their child has autism. It's like,
yeah, I've seen a few episodes of it, and a lot of it is focused on the parents. You know, it's not like, we'll say, someone with autism story. It's more so how the world around them is affected by them being autistic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I actually thought I have an issue with the documentary because it was going that route. Like it was just having the parents speak about their child for them. But as it went on and we met people like Ben, or even the way they framed things around the world, like that whole art exhibition, it was her art.
Yeah.
It was her presenting it, and she looked at it and was fine with it. It was her choice. She brought her art to somebody else and had it framed. And it was stuff like that that really changed my perception on it. And it's so easy to do.
Yeah. It was very much their story, which I thought was really refreshing to see.
Is there any other like examples of autistic characters that you guys can think of?
Loop.
Like kind of the most recent one is Disney's short film Loop, where they do have an autistic actress playing an autistic character, and it's not like, obviously like it's only a short film and it's just these two kids. But one thing that I see sometimes with movies or TV shows with autistic characters, is especially what I'm seeing with Sia's music, is it's almost like a savior complex.
Yeah.
They have going on, whereas in Disney's Loop, Pixar's Loop, it's just these two kids on a canoe, like what's the female character's name? I completely forget. Anyway, like she has she has nonverbal autism, and the person she's paired with to go canoeing, the boy, he doesn't really, I don't think he's been told she has autism, but he just doesn't know why she doesn't speak, and it is him kind of trying to communicate with her. And there is that moment kind of near the end where, like, you know, he goes into the tunnel because he's like, oh, she'll like how the ringtone sounds in here, and then she gets a bit of a sensory overload, and they get and they park the canoe up or whatever on the side of the river, and she kind of hides like inside the canoe, and he just goes, like, he knows he doesn't understand what's happening, but he's like, okay, he's like, you take as much time as you need, and he just kind of sits near her, like kind of in a way to make sure she's okay. Like, he doesn't, like, maybe he doesn't know how to calm her down, but she kind of knows how to calm herself down. And what he can do is, and he knows that obviously what he can do is just stay with her and make sure she's okay until she's ready to get back in the boat and get back on the water.
Yeah.
And what I quite liked about Loop as well, actually, is because I remember when it got announced that Sia was casting a non-autistic person, neurotypical, someone went behind the scenes of Loop and actually showed how they did it, which is they tried to bring the actress into a recording booth, but it just wasn't working. She couldn't give a performance that was genuine. It wasn't working. So what they did is instead adapt to her, and they brought her home and just brought their equipment to her. So they still let her be a part of it and still wanted that representation because she was a good actress, but they just did it in an environment that she could work in.
Yeah. They made her they adapted the environment for her.
Right now, Joss is having a joy that I will never come close to.
To live my life as a human being, nothing is more important than being able to express myself.
Yeah, if you want to see a movie that kind of encapsulates the autistic experience for some people, direct your energy towards The Reason I Jump. It's a must watch, I think. And I'm absolutely raging that the cinemas aren't open, because I think it has to be seen widely. You know, it has to be made available for people to watch and enjoy, because it's such a beautifully made documentary.
And I think, sorry, what?
I was going to say it's really well researched as well.
I can say, like, we've gone over like 4 to 5 films each, all from like different places, and they all have their such wild merit. But I think this kind of transcends that and needs to be seen widely because it has such an important message. It's not just a film, it's a statement.
Yeah.
And it's a statement that people like Sia or in Hollywood need to see, because otherwise it's going to perpetuate that notion of we know better. Like, you don't. These people can make this in a documentary, learn.
And on that note, we are going to finish up. I have been Laura, Alannah, Darragh are here today. And again, visit diff.ie to see all of the reviews from the 30 other young critics. And again, buy yourself some tickets, because these films really, really deserve to be seen, and they deserve an audience, because especially since it's virtual, since we can't go to festivals, we can't go to the cinema, I think it's really important to still consume this art form. So get yourself some tickets. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.